When we started the modern electric car revolution just over a decade ago, there were really only two types of electric vehicle on sale. High-performance, oh so expensive sports cars like the original Tesla Roadster, and family hatchbacks with limited range. It was a time before you could have a car that could carry a lot and travel a long way.
But mercifully since then, the EV market has diversified a lot. There's not just one choice of vehicle for one type of buyer. There's a whole range of different cars, ranging from affordable commuters through to electric pickup trucks, crossovers, and high-end luxury sedans. And here on this channel, we get to drive them all. And while I'll admit, I wish we had more affordable vehicles more often to drive, we do our best to evaluate each vehicle that we encounter for its own strengths and weaknesses, as well as examine where it sits in its relative market.
So far this year, we've got to test the Polestar 2, the Kia EV6, the Mercedes-Benz EQS 4MATIC 580, and most recently the BMW i4 eDrive 40. And each of these cars cross-shop in some way or another against other vehicles in the EV marketplace. But today's car, the Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo, doesn't cross-shop against anything else we can think of in the marketplace. That's because the Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo is the beefier, more rugged sibling to the Porsche Taycan, a car that we first got to drive back in 2019. It replaces the Taycan's sloping rear hatch with a wagon-style rear, adding some welcome load-carrying capabilities. It gets unique wheels and trim, and most importantly, it gets a new mode, aka gravel mode, a mode that Porsche's very, very proud of. So when we get told by one of Porsche's team we have to try out said gravel mode, well, it'd be rude not to. And we Brits, we're all about manners.
So today we're going to get to show you around the Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo for the very first time. And we're going to put it through its paces on the road. Oh, and we intend to get it dirty. Very dirty.
This is the short version of this video, but if you're someone who prefers to take your time admiring German metal, there's a long version linked below in the description.
And regardless of which version you choose, there are tiny little chapter marks for you to skip to the relevant section. The Porsche Taycan and the Taycan Cross Turismo come under a lot of criticism in a world where 300 miles is quickly becoming kind of the target, especially for high-end car companies, to reach when it comes to range per charge. And this vehicle has 80-something kilowatt hours of usable battery capacity, and it only does 215 miles per charge, but golly gosh.
Those 215 miles are an enormous amount of fun. I have had the most fun I have had in a long time driving this car. I think it's very good that I don't own one, because I don't think my driving license would tolerate it for a very long period of time.
Pretty much every car we've driven this year has been quite insistent about its intervention. You know, the BMW i4 that we've just reviewed, it was quite insistent about where it wanted you to be in the road and would nudge the steering wheel quite forcefully if it felt that you were not in the right place. This car alerts me, it vibrates the steering wheel if it thinks I'm out of position or I've gone over the lane markings, but it doesn't kind of drag me back in a visceral way like the BMW did. And it's not like the Tesla autopilot system, which is, refuses to cede control to the driver until it's absolutely obvious the driver absolutely needs to take control of the vehicle.
And let's be clear, this is not a car that is designed to do things for you.
No.
This is not a car that you buy if you want it to drive you places. This is a car that you buy if you want to drive places and experience the journey.
The air suspension is very good. It's an adaptive air suspension system. There's a button right here on the dash that I can press when I'm at low speed. If I want to go into a parking lot, or I suddenly come across, speed humps in a residential area, and it will raise the suspension automatically for me. So there is a button on the steering wheel, right? Just here. And it allows you to have a little bit of regenerative braking on accelerator liftoff. It allows you to switch between coasting, which I'm coasting now, and then you engage the button and it then switches to regenerative braking on accelerator liftoff. But it's comparable to lifting off on a reasonably low compression engine in a high gear if you're driving a manual.
Yeah, it's very gentle. And then there's a third mode, so if you press and hold it, it will take you into an intelligent regenerative braking, which seems to be taking account of what the traffic is doing up ahead of you. And it does work very well on the freeway. It adds a little more regen, it helps to keep you more well positioned behind the vehicles in front of you. And I used that a lot when I was driving down today, and it worked very well.
A lot of people say that this car doesn't have regenerative braking. It does, it's just all assigned to the brake pedal, apart from what we just talked about. That regenerative braking is very good. As long as you don't absolutely stomp on the brake pedal, you're going to be using regenerative braking to slow the car down. It's only if you really need to stop in a hurry, and this car really does stop in a hurry, then you're going to be using regenerative braking. Which brings me to the actual motors and the drivetrain. Obviously, the Cross Turismo, all Cross Turismos have dual motor, which is different to the Taycan. The Taycan you can get as a rear-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive. All of the Cross Turismos are all-wheel drive. And the front motor is a single ratio fixed gear, as most EV motors are. But the rear does something special, right?
That rear motor has 2 gears, which is all automatically controlled. This isn't something where you're going to be pedal shifting between 2 gears. But what Porsche say is that allows the vehicle to be a much better long-legged cruiser while maintaining that really good 0 to 60 time.
Right. So if you absolutely nail it from a standstill, it's going to be using the gear that gives it the best torque, that allows you to accelerate really, really quickly. And then as soon as you get up to cruising speed, you actually feel it. It does kick in. I've actually accelerated this car hard, and about 60, 70 miles an hour from a standstill, you do feel it just pause ever so slightly as it comes up and gives you an absolute kick into that next gear. But it's all very seamless.
This is meant to be one of the fastest charging cars available at the moment.
And your experience says no?
Well, it was fast. I will say it was a very rapid. I tried it twice because the first experience wasn't quite what I'd hoped for. I took the car down to 2%. It was preconditioned. I plugged into a 350 kilowatt charger, and the car peaked at around 200 kilowatts, just under, and it stayed there for a while before tailing off. Today, when I was driving down, I did the same, but I only took it down to about 50%, and then it was charging from 50% at about 100 kilowatts, which isn't quite what I was expecting.
The charge door positions are actually quite helpful for home charging, but they're not really far forward enough for some of the older Electrify America charging stations or some other DC quick charging stations. And of course in Europe, where Tesla is now unlocking its supercharger network to non-Tesla EVs, I can imagine that causing problems.
I think it's going to cause challenges for anyone driving this long distance, and not necessarily challenges for the Porsche driver, but more so challenges for those trying to use the other charging stations. When I charged this today, I had to park in the wrong space to get the cable to reach, and that meant a couple of abortive attempts at parking where I found that the cable couldn't quite reach and I still was in the right space. And then I went, well, stuff it, there's no one else here and I'm only going to be here 10, maybe 15 minutes, so I just parked in the wrong space. But that then made one of the other chargers inaccessible.
I feel that this is a car that is better suited to making long distance trips, but it's one where it gets you engaged and gets you enjoying every 200 miles. You get out, you spend 15 minutes, you go to the loo, grab a coffee, whatever, and you're back in the saddle and ready for the next 200 miles. And that feels like a really good, balanced point. That, you know, sometimes I think cars focus on range to the point that you really should be stopping more frequently, but you don't because you've still got range. And I feel that this seems to be in a sweet spot.
So, I've taken you to one of the finer gravel roads in these parts. Some nice tight twisties near the top. Let's put it into gravel mode.
All right then.
must admit, I've already come up this road once in this car, which I think was responsible for the original amount of dust on the back.
Yeah, I did notice that.
But the ride is surprisingly good. And we're doing like 40 miles an hour on a gravel road. I should point out that we've had heavy rain lately, so I don't feel too bad about kicking up some dust. But obviously, normally one would want to be quite careful about such things.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite deep gravel here, but the car really does respond very well. Again, it lets you know very clearly what's going on, where the slip is and where it needs you to kind of slow down and give it a little bit more time to get round. Here's the really sharp right. It just keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. The car, I don't know if you were pushing through that, but it did give you a great amount of feedback. I could feel it in the passenger seat, how much feedback this car actually gives you and tells you what's going on.
Oh, I want to play with this car so bad.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I'd love to see this come through like a rally stage here. So you've got a left and then a sharp right. And very often this is a blind corner here. And then another sharp left. And we're nearly at the top. So there you go, back onto the main road. Was that fun?
No, I think you're mistaken. We're turning round.
So, Kate, 2021 Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo. What do you think?
Just look at it for a second. Just
It's a beautiful
look at
car.
it. It is.
Winter was right.
Winter was right. It is so well engineered. It is comfortable and it is quick.
And it's not making the usual sports car compromises that you normally have to have in an internal combustion engine car to make it perform the way it performs.
No, you can use this car every day if you want to, and you have the money to make that kind of thing happen. This car can be your commuter. It can be your sort of family car. It's a little bit of a kind of statement, but
It's got great advanced safety technology features. The adaptive cruise control's good. The lane keep assist is pretty good. You have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, but it's good. It's a good all-round package. I think of all the electric cars I've driven, this is still the benchmark for any other high-end expensive electric vehicle.
yeah, and I think it also shows what you can do, because a lot of the vehicles out there, they're compromised in terms of the way their road feels, or they're compromised in the way that the sound is, or all those kinds of things. There's lots of little things that people can pick on, and we pick on.
Yeah.
And then this says, no, you don't have to do that. It can just be this good.
And the way it lets you know where the limits are very reassuring as well. It doesn't, I think I said earlier on in the drive, it makes you feel a better driver than you are. But when you reach a point that the car is genuinely reaching the edge of its physical limits, it taps you on the shoulder gently and goes, yeah, it's time to slow down now.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the fact that the dashboard is fully customizable. You can just have the speedometer. You can have a map. It's easy to change the configuration. And while some things are hidden several menus down, it's generally easy to change the things you need, like the suspension, like the driving mode. It's easy to use the "Hey Porsche" command, and the natural voice language system is very good. The car has never said "I don't understand you" or anything like that. Sometimes it's triggered by accident, but generally it actually answers my question, which is better than the BMW system from a couple of weeks back.
I have to say also the navigation system, its route planning was pretty flawless. It added chargers where it needed to, and that is something that we really haven't seen working very well in a lot of other cars.
And it's got a front trunk, and it's got load space in the rear, and it's not taken up by an amplifier. This is genuinely a car that you could put a weekend's worth of luggage in and go road trip.
With the off-road gravel track mode, we can go anywhere pretty much that we want to.
And you got it very dirty.
It is very dirty.
Well, hopefully Porsche doesn't mind.
It'll all buff out. It's fine.
thanks to Porsche for letting us borrow this car and letting us get it kind of dirty. And thank you at home for watching.
That's it for today. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to leave your thoughts below. Or in our free to join Discord chat room, there's a link in the video description. And if you want to tell us how awesome we are without leaving YouTube, why not try a super thanks? It's easy to pass on the love and it all goes to helping the channel grow. Don't forget that we produce videos every single day on this network for you to enjoy, ranging from deep dives and features to tutorials, unboxings and reviews. And if you want the most comprehensive roundup of all the news in the EV world on a weekly basis, check out our 10 news show every Saturday. If you haven't already, make sure you've subscribed to this channel and our other channel, Transport Evolved Take 2, and give the bell a gentle ring to make sure you're told when our next video goes live.
Thanks on behalf of the entire TE crew go out to the folks on our right for being our $15 to $49 a month supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month supporters, Chris Maxwell, Pedro Mora Pinheiro, Patrick Boyarsky, Bennett Elder, Brian Newton, Dave Kitchen, Michael Goad, Ricky Leon, Andrew Martin, Quida Drahota, Brophy Wolf, Tesla in the Gong, Gordon C, Stephen O'Donoghue, Carl Hodgson, Anthony Coates, Regine Bellows, Rory Litwin, Jim Burness, Chris Centaur, Chris and Michael Johnson, Peter Dillinger and Denny Hyde, and our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month patron supporters. They are Anonymous Freak, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, Joe Bresney, Reed R, JP Fagerback, Russ, Will Graylin, Matthew Drobnak, John Lyons, Christopher Lee Jones, Andrew Glenn, Paul Conway, Laura Reynolds, Ellery Hensley, and Ian. If you are feeling left out, you can join Patreon at the link below, hit the join button to support us on YouTube, or show us your support through buying some cool swag or by making a tip through Ko-fi. Links below. Thanks for joining us, and as always, keep evolving.